and welcome to the 6th episode of the New Podcast. My name is Steven, joined as always by Kelly, producer extraordinaire. What a week of MMA, wrestling, and everything else above. Great double show of Bellator we had. I loved it. The heavyweight tournament comes to a conclusion. I just loved how it was a 2-night event. I thought that was really cool. But the biggest talk of the town, unfortunately, wasn't this Bellator card. It was still, unfortunately, the saga between Conor and Khabib. Both their suspensions being announced just to have a hearing coming up. Where does it take us from here? Can we be over with this and be done? They're so bad they have to have a hearing. Can we be over with this and just move on, unfortunately? But what the weirdest thing I thought was people were even talking about a rematch? A rematch? Come on, man. And just how is that what Conor's going to do? He's going to demand it and get it? You got whooped, man. And you want a rematch? I don't think the world wants that rematch. It made, Khabib's a good fighter, but he doesn't have the most exciting fighting style. And if you want 2 guaranteed losses in a row, Conor, you go for it. Are you hiding from Tony Ferguson now? Is this what it is? You really don't want to fight Tony that bad? You're going to want to fight Khabib again because at least he'll choke you out. He won't beat the crap out of you. But that's the only fight that makes sense here is Tony and Khabib. Conor's out of the picture right now. He's got to fight number 4 or whoever else. If not Tony Ferguson. If you're going to fight anybody, it's going to be Tony Ferguson or whoever the number 4 is going to be. But please, Conor, step aside, son. It's so stupid. The thing I hate is the big argument is that everyone's trying to equate the after the bell barrage against the bus attack. How could these two things even be the same thing? It's impossible. People actually got hurt. People actually got cut and had to go to the hospital, and fights were canceled because of it. I guess in hindsight, fights are kind of canceled in this one too. But we're talking some D'Agostini nobody as opposed to Michael Chiesa. And even Rose Namajunas was super shooken up. Who wouldn't have been? You get a group of 20 dudes of any culture show up to outside of your bus and they're throwing shit and breaking windows. I'd be concerned. I'd be concerned too. But it's just the dumbest thing how people can even equate these two things together, and everyone's up in arms like this is the first time that people have got into it in the middle of a ring, whether it be a boxing ring or an MMA ring. Obviously with the Diaz brothers and the whole Caesar Gracie camp fighting Mayhem. That didn't look good either. But everyone's just like, my word. Everyone's just up in arms by this Khabib drop kick. What he did was bad and stupid. Dumbest move he's ever made in his life, probably, in his career in the UFC. Super stupid move, but it's not the end of the world. Jeez Louise, people. Get off this whole thing. How do you equate those two things of the dolly attack and some dude drop kicking another MMA fighter for allegedly saying shit? Who knows if he did? We'll never know. We'll never know. But these things happen a lot in other sports too. You get them in baseball. It happens. When a pitcher hits a batter and they get into a brawl. Were really even that many punches even thrown in that afterwards? You know what I mean? What was weird is that what you don't see is that when Conor after Khabib goes over the edge, Conor jumps onto the cage as well, and then that's when kind of shit hits the fan inside the ring. I think that's what a lot of people aren't seeing. Is because after Khabib jumped out, Conor jumped on top, and then one of Khabib's guys tried to jump up top too, but Conor knocked him down very lightly. It was nothing. And that's when Khabib's corner attacked Conor. I'm not saying they had the right to do it. Not at all. But I'm just saying it kind of makes a bit more sense rather than from what you see from the UFC feed is you see Khabib jump into the crowd, start fighting a dude, and then all of a sudden it pans out, and then 2 other dudes jump in the ring, and then it just attack Conor, who's just standing there minding. It looks like he's minding his own business. Doesn't look good, but it's obviously going to be who's going to get in more trouble for this. And that's what they're saying is Conor, because Conor jumped on the cage, he incited some of it too. I don't think he's at fault at this for once, actually. I think Conor's totally innocent. Khabib, I hope he just gets a slap on the wrist because he's got to go in with the right mindset. He's got to be very, what's the word I'm looking for? Ashamed of his actions and remorseful. That's the word I'm looking for. He's got to be remorseful when he goes in. And I think they'll be lenient with him. Probably a hefty fine and maybe 6 months suspension, maybe. They have it on the 24th is when we'll find out when all this stuff happens. But other sports, again, into scraps too. Hockey, they don't have as many bench clearing brawls as they used to, but sometimes they'll have a whole, like, both lines will go at it. You know what I mean? And it's mayhem. Dudes are getting bit and weird stuff's going on. And, football, it happens obviously too. But lacrosse, it's like an everyday thing. You'll have like a whole, like a bench clearing brawl in lacrosse. And people are just saying, in a contact sport where people are meant to punch each other, some dude lost his cool and attacked another dude in the crowd. You don't say. That was it wasn't like he was some random person. He was a trained MMA fighter himself and the Conor McGregor jiu-jitsu coach. Just settle down, people. Settle down, people. Jeez Louise. The other weird thing is I don't know the legality in this, Kelly, is that how Khabib still hasn't gotten his money. I guess it all goes through the Nevada Athletic State Commission, and if they say, hey, we're going to withhold your funds, I guess until the fine, they're just going to take it off the top. They should still give him his money, because Conor got his money. I think it's all that Khabib doesn't have his money. It's funny enough that, 50 Cent's offered, I'll give you $2 million right now just to come over to Bellator. I thought, where did this come from? Good move by 50 Cent. He's really making waves with Bellator, and I think he's adding to their help to be able to attract these fighters, and good for him. I think it's cool if I was a rich rapper millionaire and I had a bunch of money to throw around, I'd throw it into Bellator. I think that'd be awesome. And then you get front row seats all the time, no matter what. You get to go backstage. You get everything because you partly own it. I say more power to him. But I just thought it was hilarious that he offered Khabib the money. And I think they would lose a big guy if they did lose Khabib, obviously, the UFC. Would they be totally sad to see him go? I don't think entirely, just because of his fighting style. He is undefeated, but his fighting style has never been the best to watch, obviously.
I don't think they'd release him from his contract.
Yeah, exactly. They'll make him fight. I think his contract is probably too much guaranteed money. And I think he could probably just sit for a year and not do anything and get paid. Exactly. I think that'd be a huge loss, obviously, on the UFC. They'd have to get him to fight somebody. If not, Tony Ferguson. He'd have to fight Tony Ferguson.
Plus, it'd just be giving money away to Bellator.
Exactly. Which is what they've been doing for the last little while already. They got some decent talent in Bellator. We'll touch base on later on. I was super impressed by the two cards. Really loved them. A lot of people hate on the meeting with Putin and Khabib too. I actually really liked it. I thought it was actually a very nice meeting between the two. Thought it was cool that even for Russia to do that for him. Because UFC is still not a huge crazy sport. Obviously he's the champion, and I just thought. Actually, Putin obviously he's had a script, a well-written script of what to say, but I liked his take actually on it, saying how what he did he shouldn't have done. He shouldn't have jumped the cage. Tempers flare and you lose your cool sometimes, but since how all Russia's a family, and since Conor had attacked that family, that Putin's like, you have my full blessings to do as you please, because he attacked if he attacks you, he attacks all of Russia. And I thought it was a nice, heartfelt message, and I thought it was a cool touch by the Russian government. Khabib's obviously their future, with Fedor, aging and on his way out. I know what's cool about Fedor is they gave him a good job. He's the president of amateur MMA in Russia, which is a really cool honor for him to be a part of it, and rightfully so. The dude is a legend, and he was, by far the biggest name for a very long time. I forgot to, we have my list of top up and coming contenders. My list, it's the knock on the Sherdog list, which is crap. This one, Dominic Reyes, easily makes the list. With a bullet, that dude's tough as nails. Dominic Reyes making the new contenders list. Cormier versus Lewis got announced this week. Man, we have a lot of MMA news this week. Got so much to talk about. Huge fight for that one. I didn't expect it. When I first heard the rumor, I was like, I don't know if this could be true. This is a bit too short notice for Derek Lewis, but sure enough, it's on for UFC 230. Huge fight for both those dudes. Apparently, it actually is true that Stipe was actually turned down from the fight, and it was actually Cormier who said, no, I'm not fighting Stipe Miocic on a month's notice. I'm not doing it. And good on him. I think it's a smart move by him, and he's also he's also giving Stipe Miocic his props. He's not saying, no, you know what I mean, I'm going to duck him. He's like, no, I cannot fight this person on 30 days notice. And that is unfair to me and it's unfair to him. And I thought that was a nice touch by the champ. But that's going to be a huge one coming up here. It was shitty that Poirier fight got canceled against Nate Diaz. I really wanted to see that, all with their whole 165 rumor belt coming. And then Jorge Masvidal said he was going to step in, but obviously that got squashed too. And now they're not giving Nate anybody. He's off the card altogether now. Huge loss. You know, obviously they stacked that card up huge loss for the fight fans to see what would happen in that. Because I think Nate's been away from the game for far too long. He needs to get out there and fight again. Obviously, he made some money from his last Conor fight, but he needs another dancing partner. It's unfortunate he's off that card. Hopefully he gets another card on an upcoming event coming down the pipe here. And how the hell is Toronto get a stack card? What the hell? What the hell, Toronto? How did you guys deserve to get a stack card? God damn it, that sucks. And and Shevchenko is now fighting Joanna Jędrzejczyk again. What the hell is going on, UFC? So, Eubanks is out. It's not the headliner of 230 anymore. It's on to another one. It's on to the Toronto card. Total musical chairs. This never happened with Joe Silva. What the hell happened? Who's this new matchmaker? Makes these terrible matchups. This never happened with Joe Silva. It's total musical chairs. It seems unprofessional. I'd hate to be the fighter in that position. Okay, you're fighting in a month. Okay, I gotta train. Oh no, now you're fighting in 2 months. Okay, I don't need to train as hard. Now it's this person. No, now you're gonna fight this person. Oh no, now it's back to the original person. How the hell is someone supposed to prepare for that? It's just super annoying. Get your shit together, matchmaker. Jeez Louise, I don't even know what the dude's name is. Terrible job. And he's done a lot of terrible other matchups before, and I think it all has to lead up with Shevchenko when they gave her that Brazilian girl. It was a card in Brazil. I know she was like a last second replacement. No, I think this is actually the main fight. It was some Brazilian girl, and the chick got destroyed. She was totally out of her league. You know what I mean? To fight Shevchenko, she's one of the baddest women on the planet, and that's obviously why she's getting a title shot. But that chick got destroyed, unfortunately. And I thought at that time, I was like, who is making these matchups? Terrible matchup, especially for Shevchenko, who's really only lost to Joanna. I think she lost to Nunez, too, I think. Damn you, Toronto. I was cool. Baz Rutten got announced. He's the president of the WBKFF, World Bare Knuckle Fighting Federation. How weird is that? Baz Rutten becomes a president of it. You know what I mean? I think it's it's kind of how like Ray Sefo is like the president of Professional Fight League too. You just have like a face and a name who's, you know what I mean, very recognizable, and maybe it'll add a little bit to people watching and tuning in. They got their fight on November 9th. Brendan Ward versus Johnny Hendricks. I think it should be actually a decent fight. I'm not totally sold on the bare knuckle boxing. I'm just not the biggest boxing fan. What about you, Kelly? Are you gonna? It's a pay-per-view too. Like I don't even think I would even stream it. Really, you know what I mean?
No, I'm good.
Exactly. What is because like even Voz was explaining is that people they don't punch at 100% because they don't want to break their hand. I'm like, oh, that's like a huge downfall right there. So you see a lot of like close decisions of people get beat up. You know what I mean? It's not really. Hey, I'm not like opposed. Like, oh my word, bare knuckles. I'm not like totally opposed to bare knuckle boxing at all. I enjoy bare knuckle boxing. I'm just not knowing. I don't know how they are selling these as pay-per-views. I guess some maybe, if they was like $15, $10, maybe somebody will buy it. It's just, I don't know, it's just not, I think they're using this UFC power to get in there, but it's just not really selling me. I prefer Karate Combat at this point. I'll give this event a shot though. I'll tune in just to see what the whole thing is about. I haven't watched the other two. I'll tune in and check it out. Maybe we'll hang out and have a few drinks, Kelly, and watch it or something like that.
Sounds good.
I'm going to switch it up. I'm going to talk about MMA before I get to some wrestling. Because it was a huge event with the dual Bellator cards. I loved it. Stupid Tough, my goddamn subscriber, I hit record. And what it says now is, because before it always said it was like the undefeated season was a listing, but it was the heavy hitter season. So I click on it, whatever. It was working, whatever. Now they actually have the proper listing of saying heavy hitters, but I hit record. And It's like the highlight show of UFC. It wasn't even. I'm like, what the fuck is going on with this goddamn thing? So now I recorded it again, and it wasn't, again, 2 times in a row. I've hit record on what says it's Ultimate Fighter, and it's not. So I don't have an Ultimate Fighter recap for this week. So stupid. I was so upset. I'm like fast forwarding through. I'm like, no, I don't want to see reruns of Chuck Liddell. No. Moving into Bellator 208. Great card. It was super awesome card. Kinetic. They got the 2 cards back to back. Conclusion of the heavyweight tournament. 1 card in Connecticut. Next one in New York. I thought it was a really cool, very smart idea by Bellator, because generally they'd be in California, where that's where the fighting hotbed is. People love MMA in California. There's tons of population there, so it's an easy fit. And a lot of fighters come from California, so you have the local boy. Having it in Connecticut and then in New York, Long Island, which has a massive Russian community, very smart move. You're going to get the fans out to see Fedor. That's for damn sure, no matter who he's fighting. I like the commercials for Chael Sonnen. He was doing a really good job of it too, and they had a humility to Fedor, which isn't hard to do. The guy is such a nice guy. But the first one was Matt Mitrione versus Ryan Bader. I think it was both. I think they consider them both Bellator 208. I'm not exactly sure if the other one was just. I think the second one was just called Bellator Emelianenko versus Sonnen. I can't remember. I was trying to look it up. I think they were both basically like 208. I got it right here. Oh no, it is 207 and 208. It is 207 and 208. I'm an idiot. Total moron. So we'll get to Bellator 207. It was cool. The first fight on the main event was actually another local guy who was Mandel Nello. He's from the island, from Vancouver Island, and but he trains out of TriStar. But he had a huge knee KO. Crazy knee to win. And the dude's undefeated too. Really tough fighter. He's, seems like obviously an odd cat because he kind of described himself as like a hippie. So I thought that was kind of interesting with that. So I thought that was kind of funny. But good win for him. And he stays undefeated. Huge win for him. On to the next fight, Kelly, which we've talked about. The dreaded Baby Slice Kevin Ferguson fight. Oh man, whoo-wee, what a stinker! And I thought even before the fight, I'm like, why are they putting him up against such a can here? This, the guy was 3-2, and I thought the weirdest stat when they had him in the back, and they're talking to him, and doesn't even say he has a belt in jiu-jitsu. It just says he trains in jiu-jitsu. Oh, they're always going to say, oh, this guy's a purple belt, this guy's a brown belt, this guy's a blue belt, this guy's a black belt. They're going to say that. He just trains in jiu-jitsu. And the other stat they bring up is that his stepdad is a black belt in jiu-jitsu. I'm like, these stats mean nothing. There's nothing to talk about with this guy. This guy's a total can. But somehow he wins. It was, Baby Slice comes out with, and he's just trying. He's just trying too much. He goes for some big slams and just starts gassing out. Like, Kelly, the point you were making earlier about, when he took his back and he tried to choke him out and he just lets go. He was like, totally lets go as a hook. What's up with that? Like, how tired are you that you're going to just gas out that hard that you can't even stay on the dude's back?
Do you remember when Brian Caraway had on his stats that he's Misha Tate's boyfriend?
He's dating a famous female MMA girl. That's his only other attribute we can come up with, folks.
That's an ability.
Yeah, exactly. And they're not even together anymore. So he lost that stat. He's way worse now. He's terrible now without that.
So it's the only stat that can disappear.
Unless like unless you lose an arm or something,
At least her current boyfriend or husband, I don't know what he is, can use that stat now.
Oh, exactly.
If he ever chooses,
he
to
married
fight.
into that stat. I think he is like a Brazilian jiu-jitsu coach.
Oh, is he?
I think that's what he is.
Well, if he goes to the UFC,
yeah,
Misha Tate's baby's daddy. Use it forever. Doesn't matter.
Exactly. Like, even if they did break up, it'd be like, he has a kid with Misha Tate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That'll be his stat. That's what I thought was weird, though, is how Bellator is doing these very weird backstage interviews. Like, it was like the reporter, she was very professional and doing a great job, but they're having her talk about the fighter right beside the fighter. I thought it was very weird. It was almost like she should have been in another room, like, or at the front desk, like the desk where all the other panelists talk. She should have been on that talking about the fighter. It was very weird that she's standing right beside them talking about them while they're warming up. I just thought it seemed so awkward. It was cringeworthy at best. It was very awkward for the fighters. I thought it was a weird move by Bellator. They got to get someone on the production team to kind of move her out of there. A good win by Lorenz Larkin. I thought it was a huge win by Lorenz Larkin. You know, that dude he fought was actually a really tough dude. That's what Bellator's getting. Some people they're doing what UFC is, and they're just grabbing anybody. Hey, you're 7-0. Hey, you're 9-1. You know what I mean? I don't care who you fought. Come on over. Come on. They're getting some talented dudes, and they're gonna get people by doing that. They're just getting tons and tons of people, and it's really working for them. It is really working for them. Ian Pashu. The dude was a game fighter. He didn't give up. It wasn't the super exciting fight, but it was a high pace. I thought they both went at it for all 3 rounds. With I gave easily Lorenz Larkin 10-9 rounds every one. You know what I mean? And he was quicker, bigger, and it was a really good fight. I love Lorenz Larkin. Dude's got a great career. I've been watching him since his early days in Strikeforce. He even beat Robbie Lawler. Dude has fought all weight classes. He's fought 205, 185, and obviously at 170 is his best fit. 'Cause I don't know how little he is. He was at those higher weight classes. Good win for Lorenz Larkin, though. But the huge talk, is the Karatonov knockout of Roy Nelson. Huge win for Karatonov. And is this the end of Roy Nelson? Has his chin, you know what I mean, a heavyweight, you just can only take so many shots. And he took some shots in that one, especially that illegal knee. Do you think, Kelly, in your opinion, that could have affected the fight? Huge knee on the ground, you know what I mean, to the top of the head. I think that's where, if it would have been to the side of the face, it wouldn't have been so bad. But that knee right to the top of the head messes your whole spine up. You'll feel that. Like, you will definitely feel it. So I think it may have had a little bit. They gave him a ton of time. But I'm just wondering what you think. If you do think that it did slightly, if any, affected the outcome.
I think it might have. You know, if he's already concussed, just taking another hit on top of that, yeah, it could have knocked him out.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows, though? That was a very good strike.
Mm-hmm.
So, who knows? I
Yeah,
don't know.
even he ate those few uppercuts, you know what I mean, after, which obviously put him out. No doubt about it, he got put out. But did that knee affect his wooziness and his ability to be able to continue in that fight? I think Roy Nelson was far too proud to even think of stopping it, which I think we see 50-50 now of people saying, nah, I'm rocked to fuck. There's no way I can fight now. And all for that fighter. You know what I mean? You don't want to, if you're going to man up to getting knocked out and then, you know, getting more brain damage and then losing potential money down the road, I think sometimes you do have to say, no, I can't fight anymore. I think it was Bobby Lashley versus some total bum, or I think there was the second fight of this total bum guy. Like, it was like a super, like, 2 last second. Like, Bobby Lashley was supposed to fight on a Strikeforce. And they gave him like a last second replacement. That guy backed out, and then they had like another last second replacement who was on the card. The guy only weighed 185 pounds. And Bobby Lashley weighs like 265. He has to probably cut down to 265. You know what I mean? Huge beef of a dude. But I think it was that fight, or it was another fight also involving that same dude. But he was getting rocked the whole time, getting his ass kicked the whole time, like just like to a pulp, like how the ref didn't stop it. And then with like 2 minutes left to go in the third round, he gets an illegal knee or something like that, or like I can't remember, some kind of illegal blow, and he's like, no, I can't fight anymore. Well, of course you can't fight. You couldn't fight 10 minutes ago. You know what I mean? But so that's what I don't want to see is people pulling off shit like that. You know what I mean? To affect the outcome of a fight when one dude's just getting totally owned, and then he somehow wins the dude an illegal blow. No one wants to see that, but it happens.
How many times did Larkin get kicked in the balls and he's just pushing the ref aside, you know?
Yeah, that's true. Good point. Yeah, he did catch 2 easily that he was like, hold on a second. Okay, I'm okay.
No excuses, man. He just went at it.
Yeah, exactly. I could see why the dude was a lot shorter, but good on that Ion guy for he did pick him up after. I think after the second one, he was like, okay, you know, he didn't throw any more of those knees. Those knees were just perfect ball height for him because since he was a shorter fighter. Brings us to our main event. Matt Meathead Mitrione versus Ryan Bader. Huge fight. I didn't expect it to happen the way it did, but man, oof. Bader just comes in, takedown after takedown after takedown, just dragging him down repeatedly, grinding him up against the fence, just relentless. He almost had that, he was trapping his arm and just feeding him shots too. The output that Ryan Bader is displaying in Bellator is uncanny. He's kicked his aggressiveness into a whole new level. Man, he was just feeding him shots, not even giving Mitrione a second to breathe. I thought Mitrione would have a bit of a better wrestling background, but no, not at all. I guess it's hard to, you know what I mean, even Phil Davis. He's like a super like all collegiate wrestler, and he got out wrestled by Bader. So, you know, Bader's a great wrestler, but you know, Mitrione's such a big guy, but man, he just made him look little. He just taking him down at will. Second round, more of the same, where Bader almost gets that Kimura. Mitrione was so close to tapping. I thought he was gonna tap for sure, man. That was so tight and so close. Somehow he got his arm out of there. But once again, just showing the aggression, I think. Easily, both these were 10-8 rounds, just super dominance. And then obviously in the third round, he just shoots in with a dagger of a shot and goes for another easy takedown. And he just, every time Mitrione's starting to get up because he knows he's going to lose the match no matter what. And just Bader just at will, takedown after takedown after takedown. And you could tell, I think he may have messed up his shoulder with that Kimura. You could see like there was his bone. I don't know if sometimes fighters get those weird things, you know, and weird bones, you know, just from old injuries or collarbone injuries or something like that. But it looked like his shoulder was jacked right up or dislocated or something from that Kimura. Good win for Bader. Easily all 10-8 rounds. One of his more dominant victories, and especially at heavyweight. This dude's fighting at heavyweight, and Mitrione was probably, to a degree, top 3 heavyweight in Bellator. You know what I mean? If not, you know, top 2. You know what I mean? I think he was probably the favorite to go in and win, and he just got destroyed. He got absolutely owned. Good win for Bader though, and like Bader even made a comment. He hasn't been hit this whole tournament. You know, he gets like that 10-second knockout with King Mo and just an absolute smothering. It wasn't like a terrible blanket. That's why I actually enjoyed it. It wasn't terrible. He was being active on the ground, and he was trying to go for the finish. He did. I'll give him that. He was trying to go for the finish, and great win for Ryan Bader. What I thought was weird is that how the choosing, you know, why Karatonov wasn't in the card too. I was wondering why he wasn't in there. You know, they have Chael Sonnen, which is why do they have Chael Sonnen? You know what I mean, in this tournament? The guy's 185. I think he's fighting at 205 recently, but still, it's very weird for them to do that. Either way, it makes it made for better, which brings us to the next one, which is Bellator 208. Fedor Melchnienko versus Chael, the American Gangster Sonnen. That was only the worst part about watching on Paramount was the commercials. Oh my god, it's like the same. They only do commercials on other programs for the Paramount Network, and so you'll see the same commercial every commercial three times in a row. So every commercial is like the same 3 commercials. I'm like, what the fuck is this? I'm like, geez Louise, this is getting too much. I can't take this. You know, it's like always awesome when you record, you can fast forward, but I was hyped for these cards and I was watching live.
Buy it.
I love Paramount Network. I totally love the channel. I watch Bar Rescue and other shows on it. It's a good channel, but just having obviously the Bellator cards, but just having all your commercials are just commercials for other TV shows. I see where they're going, but I don't know what's going on. I guess we got enough money. We don't need any fucking Febreze commercials up in here, right? We don't need Febreze money. Swiffer my ass.
Our shit don't stink.
I don't need no Bounty commercials. I don't need people spilling their drinks and knowing that this shit's more absorbent than the leading brand. Son of a bitch.
People are gonna think we're sponsored
They got
by
a gangster.
Bounty.
What's that?
They're gonna think we're sponsored by Bounty.
Dearest and new podcast. we don't appreciate you talking bad about our paper towel. Yes, it is very absorbent. Thank you for commenting on that. But you took the name of Bounty in vain. Please stop. Sincerely yours, Bounty. They'll send like a little sample pack with it. They'll send like a whole like paper towel roll. Oh, if I got free paper towel, why not?
Discounts to your friends.
Yeah, exactly. $5 off Bounty next time you go or something like that.
Yes.
Huh, where were we here? Right, Bellator 208. The first fight was kind of weird. I think Andy Main. Yeah, it was Andy Main. I'm pretty sure he was on Ultimate Fighter. He's from New Jersey, so he's an easy fit to go on that. A local guy, good call. Against Henry OK Corrales. I thought he had a good nickname, OK Corrales. I thought that was kind of cool. They actually had a really good fight, and Henry Corrales, he's undefeated in Bellator right now. I think he's 3-0 in Bellator. He's an up-and-coming dude at 155. Good win for him. He gets a stoppage against a very tough and veteran dude in Andy Main. And then we had Alexander Shemenko versus Anatoly Tokov. It wasn't a bad fight. It was maybe Shemenko's obviously getting up there in age, and maybe the punches are adding up now, and we're not seeing the same oomph, the same speed. He was still throwing spinning back kicks and spinning back fists, but it's definitely not the Alexander Shemenko we knew of, for 5 years ago, I would say. Have him up against. Good on him for having the balls to fight Tito. I thought that was a really terrible fight choice for him to pick, but he took the fight, and I'm sure he got a decent amount of change for it. But, we're not seeing the same guy. He does lose a unanimous decision. It was a close fight. He was in the fight the whole time, and it was almost like both guys really didn't really push too much of a crazy pace. It was a good fight, though. That's what I liked about both these two Bellator cards. They both were good fights. They both had a good mixture of a little bit of everything. Their matchmaker knows what he's doing over there. He knows what he's doing. And then we got what you want to see, Czech Congo versus Timothy Johnson. That was a crazy one too. Obviously very quick. It's almost like you had to watch the replay a few times because Czech Congo would clip Timothy Johnson's just the top of his head just with like a glancing punch, and was enough to kind of knock him a little bit loopy. And then when the way he fell was the worst position could be at, Czech Congo just perfect punching you in the face position on the ground with his other arm trapped under his knee. It's just like he fell perfectly to get the shit kicked out of him. Big win by Czech Congo. I don't know why he wasn't in this heavyweight tournament. You know what I mean? Like, did he have injuries or couldn't make it, or, maybe a contract, weird, he didn't want to sign a contract or something? I wonder what happened behind the scenes. Why Czech Congo was not in that. One of Bellator's more active fighters, and especially at heavyweight, and I think he's on like a 5-fight win streak too, or something crazy like that. That dude hasn't lost in a long time as well, and he's been their biggest gatekeeper over there. I'm not saying he's their best fighter. Wow, holy shit, he's won a lot more than that. 7-fight win streak. He lost the last split decision was against King Mo. He's been winning for a long time. He hasn't been even stopped in Bellator. He's got a lot of wins in Bellator. How is that? I wonder, must have been something, because he's obviously the easy favorite, and he's getting a lot of big wins. Augustus Sakai, who he did beat and who's now in UFC. Timothy Johnson, Javi Ayala, he was a good fight for him too. He beat the crap out of him. Tony Johnson, Ole Thompson, he's got a win over Volkov too, who just lost to Derek Lewis, and he's one of UFC's top fighters at heavyweight right now, and Czech Congo has a win for him. Still getting it done. Czech Congo, good for him. 43 years old. Holy shit, timeless. 7-fight win streak, and he's 43 years old. I think he's got to be the next guy in lineup for whoever wins this tournament. Czech Congo versus Bader would be the most boring fight ever, because it would be takedown after takedown after takedown. Czech Congo's not bad at. That's one thing I'll give Czech Congo. When he was in the UFC, he really worked on his takedown defense, and I think that's really what he's got not a bad takedown defense up against the fence, but obviously and he knows how to use his frame and his size to stuff that takedown. What a lot of guys do, and you don't really get to see it, is they actually stick their foot right between where the cage goes underneath the floor of the ring. There's a tiny little gap. So what dudes do is they stick like their pinky toe down there. It hurts like a mother, but if you practice doing it enough, you can really stuff a takedown. And no one does that move better than Czech Congo because he's so big. So now he's got a little bit of leverage, jamming his toes down and under, in between the fence and the mat. And super strong dude. It's good. Let's hopefully we see more Czech Congo. I'm sure we will in Bellator. They have no choice. They don't, but to use them out there. Bringing us to the Benson Henderson versus Sada Wad fight. This one was fireworks. These were two dudes who were at the prime of their career and who were just wound as tight as a top just to get in there. Huge implications for whoever wins this fight to get the next title shot. Huge fight for both these guys, and they came swinging, both trying to just really take each other out. It was a really good fight. You could see the talent level with these two dudes fighting, and that's what Bellator is now bringing, this talent level. And I think I really saw it last night with Benson Henderson and Sada Wad really going at it. Super technical fight, but it was very exciting. You could just see how fast each dude was throwing punches, how fast they were countering, how fast they were throwing kicks. Lightning stuff. And it was a great fight. They really went at it. They really both did, but I'd have to give the edge in the first round to Benson Henderson with both those guys coming out with that quick pace and style. There was a great scramble. I love always talking about the scrambles. There was an awesome scramble in the second where Assad got the sweep and ended up on top, but Benson is he's too taught. His wrestling game is so strong. He eventually ended up on top. But at that point, you could kind of see Saad start to fade. There was a few times he was a little bit upset in the match where Benson was grabbing his gloves. And you grab your gloves sometimes. It happens. It's just an accident. I don't think Benson didn't know he was doing it, but like Tito always said, if you're not trying to cheat, you're not trying to win sometimes. But easily the second round goes to him too. And it was a wild third round, man. They weren't swinging. Saad was coming out because he obviously knew he was 2 rounds down to none. He really came out swinging. They were really exchanging kicks and really throwing punches. It was great third round for the fans. Good fight for Benson. Obviously he won wholeheartedly, but I thought his post-fight comment was a little off. I see where he's coming from. He's obviously commenting on Khabib and Conor because he's a 155-pound guy too, and he obviously feels that he should be over there fighting for the belt. But look, newsflash, you're in Bellator. You're going to be the champ one day. I think he's obviously upset because he's actually lost a few fights in Bellator. And he just needs to show more of a killer instinct. I think Benson Henderson always fights for the distance. But this is where the big boys plays, and a lot of people have a gas tank, especially at 155. It's Conor McGregor is probably the only guy who doesn't have a gas tank at 155. Most people do. So I think he's got to be more aggressive with his gas tank and take those guys who have the gas tank into deeper water, and then you see how it goes. You got a good gas tank, push yourself then. Push it to the limit. Throw that extra punch. Throw that extra kick. Throw that extra takedown. If you have that, and that's going to be your strategy. I think that's what we've seen from Benson Henderson, what we saw from Benson Henderson today, or yesterday, and it was a really good match. Good for him. Bringing us to the main event. Chael Sonnen versus Fedor Emelianenko. A good friend of mine said it too. It really, it's even to see what Fedor fights now to this day, still like brings like a chill to me, man. It's like just still in awe of this dude. I was just such the biggest fan of Pride and everything else he did. And obviously his losses were his losses. His losses really hurt me a lot too. I felt super bad for the dude because he was such this legend. But he was so humble about it. He was always humble about everything. And I think that's what Bellator did. They made Chael Sonnen is the loudmouth, but he was not offensive with his smack talk. I thought it was cool. He's like, I'll fight Federer, I'll fight Putin, I'll fight a Siberian Husky. Chael Sonnen voice. I thought he did a very respectful job, and they made Federer look like he always does good. But I think it would be a sad moment if Fedor did lose, but he came in and obviously he was going to be the heavy favorite. With being a heavyweight, Chael Sonnen's a 185 normally, does fight at 205 either way. He came out and he just ate those two huge shots, right off the bat. It was almost like a straight left. It wasn't really like a jab, it was more like a straight left, and he just walked into it 2 times in a row, and Chael felt the power of Fedor right away. What I loved about Fedor's style is just how he's so used to fighting way bigger dudes. Fighting Chael, as soon as Chael went for the takedown, he got tossed right away. Crazy judo toss right off the bat. It was so lightning quick of Fedor, and that's what a representative for his sport. And then to display to the kids that he teaches, You know what I mean? How to use a judo toss effectively in a fight. And that's what it should be. That's what Sambo is all about. And I thought that was really cool. Just how easy he makes it look. It was just beautiful. And then the second judo toss was even worse than the first. I'll give it to Chael. He did not give up. He ate those 2 huge shots. He got taken down terribly. He didn't give up though. He kept on moving forward. And my hat's off to Chael Sonnen, because he got that good takedown too, and he kind of tagged Fedor a little bit too, and got that good takedown. And I thought, oh well, here comes Chael, but obviously this is Fedor, and he's easily swept him. And it just was too much. See, maybe Fedor was fading a little bit. He said in the post-fight interview that he wasn't tired at all, but he kind of did look a little bit tired. He was doing a pretty high output, but maybe he didn't put in as much of an effort as well, because he's fighting a dude who's, like probably, at least 20 pounds, 30 pounds lighter than him. Obviously, he gets the TKO. I thought maybe Chael quit a little bit early, but I just don't think he wanted to get pounded out by Fedor, and he didn't move, you know what I mean? He wanted out, but good win. My hat's off to Chael for being in this tournament to begin with, and eventually knowing who he could fight. And that's what I love. I love tournaments like that. Japan always puts them on. I love that. I love the K1 was big for that, because the K1 tournament, Kelly, was so cool, because K1 had 2 weight classes. It was like 155. And then everything else was in one weight class. You know what I mean? So that was it. If you were 170, you'd have to go in the heavyweight tournament. If you were 300 pounds, you'd obviously be in the heavyweight tournament. You know what I mean? So it was a really cool, but I thought it was a cool dynamic. But it meant like the toughest of the toughest, and that's what you want to see. You want to see the toughest of the toughest fight each other, and you want to have a little sprinkling, a little luck in there. You know what I mean? A little bit of magic, and that, you know what I mean? Anybody can win a fight. And that's what you want to see. Underdogs become kings, and the rulers fall. You know what I mean? That's what you want to see. And I think that's what these tournaments bring about, that anything can happen. And I really loved it. We still have the main event, obviously, with Bader versus Fedor Emelianenko. I love Fedor, one of my favorite fighters of all time. Don't like his chances in this one, obviously, with the 2 fights we've seen Bader in. He's got his puncher chance, though. Bader doesn't have the best chin, and I think if anybody can throw that quick, stunning punch, it is Fedor. Maybe he prepares for that shot that Bader shoots all the time. He is very quick and can turn it around, but obviously, I would almost say probably Bader's camp is probably going to want to stand and bang with him, because Bader does have the power to put Fedor out. Unfortunately, most heavyweights do, and people at 205 right now, which is, obviously his chin isn't what it used to be. He's an aging dude. He's had a great storied career, and he's been punched in the face a bunch of times. That's what Fedor does, especially too. He gets, he overcomes adversity and comes back to win the fight. I'll never forget his Kevin Randleman fight, where Kevin Randleman just straight up slams him on his head, but Fedor still comes out of it somehow and still wins the fight. Like, that was a crazy. How he got out of that one, just slams right on top of his head, and he still manages to win the fight. Obviously, his story career with Crow Cop, and when Crow Cop was at his baddest in the world, and Nogueira, he fought. People want to say, oh, he fought Cans. No, he did not fight Cans. He fought the heavyweights that were getting that the UFC couldn't afford. He was fighting all these mega heavyweights the UFC didn't have the money for, and Pride did. And so I feel it's just super disrespectful that people say that, oh, because these guys came over. They already had fought at Pride for, taking whatever supplements and getting in these crazy brawls where people got kicked in the head on the ground. And then 10 years later, you want them to come over to UFC and be like, oh, yeah, see, they're bums. Total cans.
And he did beat Tim Sylvia and Andre Alaska.
Yeah, exactly. He worked both those dudes who were, Tim Sylvia was beating up everybody. He did lose to Randy, and he was probably one of the more boring fighters of the heavyweight division of that time. He went as soon as Tim Sylvia left, because he got cut from his contract pretty quick. He's still a very game fighter, huge dude who was still whooping dudes. He comes over, Fedor beats him instantly. I think it was like a 30-second rear naked choke. And then Arlovsky, comes over, and that was a great fight too. I'll touch base on a little bit of that later on. It kind of goes into my whole take, but just to talk about tournaments still, Scott Coker, I love what he's doing with. I loved him in Strikeforce, super likable guy, and I love what he's doing with Bellator. He's really bringing it to the position it is right now. And to have those 2 cards, I thought it was a very nice touch. I think it had people talking, and I thought it was good to have those 2 fights back to back. But he wants to do a champion versus champion event against Rizin. I fucking love that idea. I don't know who Rizin's really going to have as far as the lighter weights, but to have, heavyweight. I don't even know if Rizin has a 205 champ or if they even have a 205 division. I'm sure they could find somebody. But just to do, heavyweight, 205, 185, to do a whole card of champions versus champions, I fucking love that idea. That's the rumor swirling around right now that he has pitched to Rizin, Antonio Inoki, and his team over there. I fucking make it happen, please. See, this was the Bellators. They're coming up with ideas. I like this. Just come up with the ideas, throw them out there. Some work, some don't work. I love the direction Bellator is going in. Fights are free. The fights are good, and you get what you pay for. What I thought was funny is I talked a little bit earlier about 50 Cent and his involvement with Bellator. What is his involvement? Like, what is his? Does he have official title? Because he's always backstage. Is he just like a co-owner or like a percentage owner? Like, and if he is, what percentage? I'd like to see him get in the ring. There's always all this bullshit and this talk about him fighting. I think this is how he gets a fight in Bellator. Why not? They put on these legend fights. Maybe they make it a kickboxing, like just a boxing match or a match with special rules or something like that. But I couldn't really think of who he would fight. And I was thinking maybe Herschel Walker, maybe, you know what I mean? Another celebrity, even though Herschel Walker's quite old. I don't know what weight class, you know what I mean? But who do they give him a dancing partner? Do they I don't think.
How about another rapper like Roy Jones Jr.?
Yeah. Put him up against T-Wood.
Yeah. T-Wood, there you go. But that's UFC.
Oh no, but still, I don't know who if they get a dancing partner for him. That's what I was just saying. I don't know if we'd come up with some ideas later on, but is it going to be somebody professional? Is it going to be like a fighter who's making amateur as well, or a guy who's 1-0 or 2-0, or do they give him like another celebrity? You know what I mean?
CM Punk.
Yes, that was one thing who they should. That's what the one people were tossing that around with CM Punk.
Okay.
But I don't know exactly who knows who they give him. I think Herschel Walker makes sense. I think it'd be cool. Let's throw 50 Cent in there. Why not? Give him a shot, just like an amateur fight. Why not? Doesn't have to be in the main event. Make him the opening match of the card so he can still enjoy his night. You know what I mean? When I played in bands all the time, I always loved being the opener because you play first and then you get to drink the rest of the night and have fun. You know what I mean? Whereas if you're headlining, you may not get on till 1. You know what I mean? So now you can't get wasted until that time, right? I like to see 50 Cent there. See, more. I wasn't the hugest fan of his music, not at all. I would never buy a 50 Cent album or anything like that. But I think his help in.
Wow. What about Go Shorty? What is that one called?
I think that's what it is. But that's just one song. I don't think he really had with me. I know he had like a few good hits that were like big on the billboards. Like I'm sure he went number 1 a bunch of times, which is a huge honor.
The whole G Unit.
Yeah, exactly. He just wasn't my thing. I'm not huge into rap to begin with. I'm not dissing on him at all. It just wasn't my thing. I'm not saying I didn't like it. Just wasn't my thing.
That's true.
But I mean, he had some hits, but they weren't something I'd ever bump on my stereo. That's all I'm saying.
You're a hater. No, it's kidding.
Exactly. Well, let's we're about an hour. Let's take a quick short break. We will get right back to you after these short messages.
Let me tell you something, Mean Gene. Everywhere I go with my 24-inch pythons, all the Hulkamaniacs ask me, Hulkster, what podcasts are you into? And I tell them, brother, you've got to check out the new podcast. It's going to run wild on you.
That's what I love about Bellator is they're doing it right with these cards. They're not plentiful. And that's what's good. I think that's what takes me to my take is how good Bellator is doing as opposed to how UFC is doing. Obviously, UFC is the number 1 brand in the land. They can go wherever they want. They're making millions of dollars. There's no doubt about that. But they're on the decline. And I think what it is there's far too many cards. Far too many cards. The fight nights, the live on Fox, or you know what I mean, and then the cards and the UFCs themselves. There's far too many. It's almost like there's. For me, I love it. I absolutely love it. I'm an MMA fan, a huge one. But for the average fan that they want, the fly-by-night fan, the football fan who's really into football but doesn't really know much about MMA, baseball, the hockey fan that doesn't really know much about MMA. Those other sports fans they want is, I think it's just the sheer volume is scaring people. and there's just too much. They're like, oh, everyone's, because for those people are always like, hey, the cards this week and the cards this week. Oh, who's fighting? It's nobody's against nobodies. And I think that's the message that is being put to the average fan, is that the good cards are too and far in between. But since there is so many cards, people are like, oh, I'll catch the next one because there's going to be another one next weekend, right? But then the message is lost with it. More fights isn't the answer. And that's what fans want to see. We need quality over quantity. And that's what we're not seeing from the UFC. They're putting on far too many shows, and they can't keep going to the well. Conor and Brock Lesnar are eventually going to leave. They're going to retire in the next 5 years at least. That's not a long-term plan. If you're going to put all your eggs in the Conor basket, let alone how they're putting any of their eggs in the Brock Lesnar basket, it's been well documented. He's getting a lot of money too. They can't keep going to the well. It's going to be their downfall. They got to do something, and I think it happens with starting to scroll back the shows. I know they broke records. The Conor versus Khabib fight, which of all purposes, it's a weird matchup to be able to break records with Khabib being the dancing partner of Conor, and obviously Conor garners that star power by himself. It could be Conor versus a bag of potatoes, and people would still come and watch just to see what he does. You know what I mean? But that's not only going to last for so long.
He's never fought an opponent like this before. Bag of potatoes.
UFC 300, Conor McGregor versus a bag of potatoes.
There's a whole new set of challenges with the bag of potatoes over an actual person.
This time, it's personal.
Because he's Irish? I'm bitching about this. The UFC's got a problem. I'm bitching about it, but then you say, how are you going to fix it? I got an idea. I have a few ideas for you, UFC, Dana. More belts. Number one, more belts. You dangle the idea with the 165. I've talked about before, the 225 belt. 205, 225, and then heavyweight. Call it super heavyweight or whatever the hell you want to call it. But make the 225 belt heavyweight. Throw in a 215-pound belt. I don't care. I think more belts the better. 205, 185, 195? Sure, I'm sold. 195 too. Then down 185, 170, and then 165, 155. And I think that's really, now you've just added a bunch more belts. Fights mean more now. And that's how you're going to get people, is when the fights mean more. The guy's got the belt. He's no longer a nobody. He's the champion. He's not just nobody versus nobody. It's now they're fighting for the 215-pound belt. They're fighting for the 156.2 pound belt or something like that. You know what I mean? It adds to it. It adds to it. It's cheap, whatever. It's easy to do. Works for the WWE. Super works. People come for the title fights. That's what they want to see, and they want to see belts change hands. You got more belts, you got more fights, and then you get more influx of people wanting to fight because now they're going to be able to fight at a more comfortable weight class and put on better shows. More belts, number one. Number two, make it more seasonal. With UFC, what's the one time of the season where people don't ever go? And I think that's when UFC does too much of their advertising and their big fights is the summertime. They always put on like a big card during the summertime. I thought that was the dumbest thing ever. People don't watch UFC in the summertime. People are out camping. They're out traveling. They're out on vacation. They're doing stuff with their families. They're not going to sit down with their buddies. You know, like I said, once again, I'm not speaking for myself. I'm speaking for the average fan. I love UFC. I love MMA. But the average fan, those extra dollars you're trying to get, they already got my dollars. They got my dollars. The other dollars they're trying to get to tune in, those people, they don't watch UFC in the summertime. Make it more of a seasonal thing. Still have shows in the summer, but make it more of a headliner-like show from, say, October to May. Because I think the fight week is in May. And I think do a big show for that. Obviously, they always do. Do your year-end show as a big show. And then maybe do your beginning of the season show as a big show. And still do your pay-per-views heavy then. Then come May to September, June to September, do all your fight nights. do your lower level shows. Go to Switzerland, go to other places and do these more local shows. That's how you get it. You go top heavy and then bottom heavy in the summer. More people want to go on vacation in the summer too. Win-win for everybody. Make it a seasonal, kind of like how all the other sports do it. You got to do it in the winter. People are watching in the winter. That's when people are stuck at home, and that's when you're going to get the more beer drinkers, the more people at the pubs, because that's when it happens. You'll get that revenue again, and I think that's definitely what they got to go with. Plus, lower the shows. Too many shows right now. We got to back it up a little bit. One pay-per-view, one fight night a month. I thought they had that program a few years back. I thought it was a great program to stick with. I think you're not oversaturating. You get those weeks in between. Like I said, I like shows all the time, and I'll be able to find those shows. If you have the Contender Series shows, like those, I like those shows, but they got to make it a bit more free too. I think that's what Bellator's got them beat on. I see where UFC's going. No matter what, if you make it something to pay for, you'll get it. But make it more the free cards. Make a deal with Fox. Make a deal with NBC. Get those free shows, or on TV, TSN or ESPN, something like that, where you can get on TV and still show those shows for free. Obviously, make the pay-per-views money, but make the fight nights more accessible rather than the Fight Pass. Having people sign up for the Fight Pass, I don't know what numbers they're doing. It must be decent, or else they would have scrapped the whole thing. It must be making money. But I think what Bellator is doing is they're making most of it free, and that's bringing everybody over. Their numbers still can't compare to UFC's. They never will. But they are a viable number 2, and they're doing some right things. One organization that I absolutely loved, I absolutely adored, was Affliction. They did it right. They had luckily enough, a real heavyweight talent pool that was a bit aging, but they were all aging at the same time. Affliction 2 was probably the best card to date, still to this day, of front to bottom, back to front, everywhere. Great fights on the card. I love what Affliction was doing. I think what they did with the first one really got my attention, with heavyweights like Josh Barnett and obviously Fedor. And I was lucky enough to go to Affliction 2 in Anaheim. Drove down with a bunch of buddies. It was probably one of the most memorable sporting events of my life, without a shadow of a doubt. It was a great card, but just what a card stacked from bottom to top. It was everybody there. The crowd was amazing. That's what was the coolest part. The celebrities in the crowd: Ernesto Hoost, Frank Mir, Baz Rutten, Tito was there. They had a whole ton of porn stars there, tons and tons of them. Wayne Static was there, former lead singer of Static X, huge fan. Tim Sylvia, totally douched me out. I actually met Jake Shields. I got a picture with Jake Shields, super nice guy. Tim Sylvia was a total loser to me. I was gonna get a picture with him, and Buddy's got the lens, the camera, and and he didn't realize the lens cap was on. This was 09 when cell phones weren't that big yet, right? Yeah, you know what I mean? So it's 09, and so I take the lens off the camera, and he just totally fuck, I'm out of here. He didn't say that, but then he just laughed. I'm like, it was gonna be 2 seconds, man. It was just gonna be 2. All right. So all the celebrities in the crowd were just really, really cool event. But the fighters around, the undercard was huge. We showed up early for the undercard to watch every single fight. They had LC Davis, who was he was a big star at that time too. He was Miss Boa Quach. That was a great fight. He had Little Nog versus Machuchenko. That was a crazy fight, ended with a knee for Little Nog. Dan Lozon, Joe Lozon's little brother, against Bobby Green. I remember there was a lot of nut shots in this fight. It was we had the best seats too, man. We were right on the floor. It was so cool because I think we were 10th row back or 11th row back, but there was just 4 rows of people, and then the press were in front of us. So we didn't have a bunch of people standing in front of us because it was just our 4 rows and then all the press. But so there's 7 more rows of just people on computers, taking notes and, reporting on the fight. So it was really funny because there was one dude who got super out of control, got super wasted, right on the front row, of the people. And it was so funny because they're carrying him out because he's so super, super drunk. And they're carrying him out, and he's got no shoes on. I'm how drunk is this guy? He's in his socks, and they gotta carry him out. Yeah, he had one too many, but it was just such a cool atmosphere of all the fighters in the crowd. and the camaraderie of all the fight fans, just because of how cool it was. But up against Bobby Green too, and he beat Bobby Green in that fight too. And that was, Bobby Green's a big fighter in the UFC still. Paul Bontello, the headhunter versus was one of Fedor's proteges, Krylov Sindikov. He really didn't have a good career after that. It's just unfortunate people that get in the shadow of Fedor, they just don't do that great. They don't really have a whole ton of prospects coming out of that, like non-Dagestini Russia, but Russia's always produced strong fighters, just a sheer volume of people. But Babalu versus Sukaju, that was both those guys were still kicking and still making money. It was that's like the main card. I remember Paulo Bontello was like the headline of the undercard, and then you get Babalu versus Ramian Terry Sokaju, and that was it was an arm triangle choke. Really cool. It was cool because it was a ring too, and where we were sitting from, it was super. You get super close to everything. And then the absolute murder with Vitor Beltor just decimating Matt Lindland in 37 seconds. That was an HGH human or testosterone replacement. Vitor Belfort, you know what I mean? And that was, Matt Lindland's jaw's never been good. That was absolute murder of that. And then, my favorite, Josh Barnett against Gilbert Ivell, super mishmash. I remember it was just Josh Barnett would just basically mount the whole fight. And Gilbert Ivell couldn't do anything at all. And eventually pounded him out in the third round. So we had all these stoppages, and then you kind of have a longer fight, to get everyone settled in. And then, see, that's what with these fights of these dudes at this time, there was so many stoppages. Just really the undercard was a bunch of decisions, which got everyone into their seats. And then obviously the main event, Fedor Emelianenko versus Andrei Arlovsky. That's why it was such an awesome time. And I think that's why I always have a history with loving Andre even more, because that's when he was really at his peak. During Affliction 2 was probably the most fit, toughest Andrei Arlovsky we had seen ever. Obviously, because his next fight was against that Rogers guy, and that was where Fedor really got beat up because Rogers was so big. He really busted his face up pretty bad, like his nose area, and Fedor's nose was never the same after that. He started to lose after that. So that's the thing, this is where we've seen Fedor at his absolute prime, his absolute physical peak, up against Andrei Arlovsky. And I'll never forget, we always talk about in wrestling, it's called a pop, like when the crowd explodes, you know what I mean? And Andre was really putting it to him. He was really working his kickboxing, and he was really keeping Fedor at bay with his legs, and really tagging him with some good kicks to the body, to the legs, and then some good punches. And I'll never forget the sequence, man. It was just such a crazy sequence that, he kicks, pushes him with the punch, and then Fedor bounces, he's getting kind of beat up, and he bounces off the ropes, and Arlovsky goes for that big knee, and then Fedor goes for that huge overhand right, and then just, like I said, man, the pop from the crowd, the whole place erupts, the whole full stadium erupts with Fedor winning, and Arlovsky crashing to the ground in that iconic scene, and Fedor walking off, and it was such a very, very cool event to have all that go down. What was it? What was cool part about it was to touch base on all the celebrities. We have Kao Uno was a few rows ahead of us, but at that time Donald Trump was a huge financial supporter of Affliction. He was in the crowd, but the event's over, and me and my buddy are just sitting there where everyone's clearing out. They had a cool Jay Heron versus Jason High as the after fight, so that after they do that in a lot of American shows. So even after Fedor, this huge crazy fight against Fedor and Arlovsky, they have another fight of Jay Heron versus Jason High, who are both still active dudes. They were both getting a lot of money. I think Jay Heron's a trainer now. Jay Heron was a huge fighter at that time too. So now he's in the undercard. He's on the after bout of this huge monumental fight. So we're sitting by, and here comes Donald Trump, walks by, and my buddy's like, "Oh, great show," and he gave us a thumbs up, and he walked on, whatever political views you have. That was well before that time. It was, at that time, he was just some rich dude who had a TV show. So it was a nice moment to kind of cap off the night of just how cool it was, how cool the whole event was. And that's what UFC needs, is just more of those marquee cards. And I think that's what you'll get by condensing the cards. You'll have no chance but to stack the hell out of these cards. And then people will start coming. Stack the hell out of them. You get 2 injuries, whatever. Then you still have, say you stack 6 fights. 2 injuries, you still have 4 fights. And that's still a damn good card. Stack of the cards, and you're going to get people. I can guarantee it.
Let's talk about some wrestling.
We got a big Raw and big SmackDown. The SmackDown's leading up to SmackDown 1000, which I think is going to be huge. Tons and tons of rumors swirling around it. But let's touch base on Raw first. They're obviously trying to build up that Crown Jewel show. Huge with obviously now it's going to be a tag team match. It's not the last. It's the last singles match, I guess, against Undertaker and Triple H. Now it'll be Undertaker and Kane versus Triple H and Shawn Michaels in a tag team match. Shawn Michaels comes back in a tag team match, which what we had commented on before, saying that's the only time he would come back. Not surprised. Just, I guess it's okay. You know what I mean? They're giving Saudi Arabia what they want. There's a lot of rumors swirling around that they may not do. I highly doubt it. The tickets are sold. It'd be that a lot of the fighters don't want to do the Saudi Arabia card, and that it has already been moved from one venue to another venue. So are cracks already in this thing that they're going to get rid of it or not? I don't know. I highly doubt it at this point. If they do go ahead with it, it's obviously going to be a huge event. I'll watch it, obviously. And then I think Evolution's the next week right after it. I like the Lashley attack on Kevin Owens. Have them with that rivalry. They've been really trying to push those guys together for some weird reason. I think because they don't really have ideas for both of them. But to have Lashley, they are making him have a heel turn with heel turn with Leo Rush to make it so that he is more the bad guy. I don't really know if Bobby Lashley pulls it off. I think he is obviously a better heel. It's just easier to be that than to be a good guy. But the smashing Kevin Owens' knee, I think, was obviously a move they had to do because Kevin Owens actually is injured. So the really, really shitty news coming out that he could miss 4 to 8 months. So there's a move they had to do. I guess it'll open up the rivalry between Elias and Bobby Lashley. I think Elias is a lot better than that. I think he should be going for the Intercontinental belt at least right now. I think he's perfect Intercontinental champion. And it would definitely work for his persona. I love the announcing of the 8-Man World Cup. A lot of local shows do that. I've always been liking I love the Royal Rumbles and types of match like that. I know this is more of like an 8-way match. I always like those matches. There's so much room for crazy stunts and shit like that. I love the idea. Obviously, Kurt Angle and John Cena are moving on for the Raw side of the first announcement. We'll get the other announcements. Hopefully, John Cena's done something with his hair. So that was just really weird. I remember, Kelly, I was talking about this for a while now, how Ronda Rousey, the perky ears up right a little bit, right? Because she's with this team. I was like, it's a terrible team. While she's with these two twins, the Bella twins. But they're famous. Like they have like their own TV show that's popular. Mm-hmm. It's called Total Divas. They have like 8 seasons of it now. So like they're mega loaded off that. So I see the star power they got them together. But they finally turned on Ronda Rousey. They like beat her up. They like backstabbed her. So I think, but it's a shitty move. I'm not a big fan of the Bellas. And now Nikki Bella is going to be at this Evolution card, which is the all-women card. Now Nikki Bella, since they have that, now they've created a rivalry that now Nikki Bella will be going for the belt against Ronda Rousey, and I think she's probably going to win. And I think it's a terrible move by the WWE. I hope if Nikki does win, she loses the belt basically right away, and they move on from the Bellas, move them into more of a comic role because it's just not, their in-ring ability is just terrible. But it has had controversy. I love Baron Corbin announcing it because they had announced before. I was like, oh, cool. They're going to do like a battle royale for one of the entrants of the World Cup. And I thought, oh, that's cool. But then, of course, Baron Corbin, he announces all these, what they're called jobbers. They're like local guys. They're terrible. They have no name. They're like usually little guys too. And he's announcing all these people he's going to go up against. And it's all like these little dudes. He's a huge dude. And it's all like these little dudes. And like, nobody, no names. But there's one guy in like a whole jumpsuit. And it's Kurt Angle dressed up. And I thought as soon as the Conquistador, I'm like, something's up with this right off the bat. Because Edge and Christian had their whole thing where they were the Conquistadors and they were the tag team champs. And that was the only way they were going to get the belt. So I knew something was up as soon as that guy came out. And sure enough, it turned out to be Kurt Angle. I wasn't sure who it was at first. But as soon as he started doing those German suplexes, you could tell it was Kurt Angle. And I thought it was a really cool move. I would have liked to have seen an actual battle royal, but I did enjoy this. It was a really good segment. It was a twist on the normal, and I thought it was really funny because Baron Corbin thought he was going to get it, and all the jobbers were beating him up in the beginning, and so I thought, oh no, they're going to eliminate him right off the bat. But of course, he comes back. They're working well with Baron Corbin, and I think it's really working. They gotta go something with him. I think he's not getting the depth he needs, but I think it's going to turn out to be something good. I like the heat that they're building between Trish and Alexa. They're obviously trying to make some kind of storyline, and I think if anybody can do that better, it's Alexa, especially with how she talks, and you got an easy play to call Trish old, and it really works. They're attacking each other verbally, and the only shitty thing is that now that their match turns into a tag match, I would have much rather seen Trish Stratus versus Alexa Bliss in a single match rather than a tag team match of Lita and Trish versus Mickie James and Alexa. I like the single matches. I can see why, because maybe that other single match, or maybe they're just tight for time. They're just really trying to add a ton of cards, a ton of fights to this card, and I think they're probably running out of time. They're going to be losing time. They're going to announce something big probably, and they got to make time. It's obviously going to be a 5-hour show, but whether or not they have all that time with the amount of matches they're announcing, with the whole roster, 50 women being on there, who knows what else they bring out. It's in Chicago, Kelly, and that's where CM Punk is from. And this is WWE. That's how CM Punk got his name, was because he's from Chicago, and he's the wrestling fans from Chicago are a little different. Like New York has their own wrestling fans, Chicago does, Toronto does, and then obviously like the Western states, and everyone's kind of got their own like wrestling fans. But there's a few places that are diehard wrestling fans, and they're always especially New York, but Chicago is one of those places too. So usually during the shows, the crowd just chants CM Punk the whole time, because CM Punk had a really bad falling out with the WWE. Like that's the reason why he left. Like he left like because it wasn't a good relationship. You know what I mean? So the crowd's always chanting CM Punk all the time, because it's in Chicago, and that's where CM Punk's from. But I think what they got to do is if they go to Chicago and then just play CM Punk's music, and then get the crowd all fired up, and then get somebody they hate come out. You know what I mean? Like Vince McMahon or something like that. I think that's what you get. That's what you should do. Like they said, you get that pop. You get that pop. If you played CM Punk music and then you got that huge pop, and then have Vince McMahon or somebody like that come out, I think it'd be a super good movie. But shut the crowd up. You definitely get some hate on that one. And then Paul Heyman comes out. He announces that Brock Lesnar, he wants the UFC champ. What was crazy? Paul Heyman comes out and he announces that Brock Lesnar's ambition is to be the WWE champ and the UFC champ at the same time. So this is a kind of a new thing too. So they're kind of teasing the WWE fan more, saying Brock's not going anywhere. He'll still show up time to time, but he's going to obviously still do both. Like I said, what balls does this dude have that he can compete in both companies when no one else could do that? Both companies have a non-compete clause. Here's dudes like saying, you want me? I'm doing both, or else I'm out of here. You know what I mean? So, and he is in the crown jewel, so we'll see what happens in that. I highly doubt he wins, but it was a really good Raw. I really enjoyed it. Great ending of the match with the Strowman squad beating the Shield again. It was really good episode. I think they were really trying to hype up the crown jewel and all the stuff that's coming up here, and the Evolution card, which is huge, and so we're going to be seeing a lot more legends come back and a lot more of these big events, and people are just going to have to come up just to get back into normal shape. Probably the best Raw since Raw 25. That show was hugely monumental. That was one of the best Raws in probably like 5-10 years. But I think it's the best show since then. It could be even close to that show. For Raw, they really put on some great shows. It's really shitty about Kevin Owens, though. That's the worst part, is just how Kevin Owens is injured. Huge fan of Kevin Owens. It's just, who knows, that it's saying could be pretty serious. So let's hope not. On to SmackDown. It's really weird how they started the show with just Becky Lynch no talking, right into a match. Becky Lynch versus Charlotte. It was kind of an odd way to go. But they're rolling the dice, just doing, switching it up. That's kind of nice too. Great match though. Amazing match. I wouldn't give them a 5-star match, because people just throw 5-star matches around like it's nothing. Like, oh, a good match. Oh, half decent, 5 stars. Oh, somewhat decent, 5 stars. Oh, it was okay, 5 stars. This was a great match. Don't get me wrong. Great match. I only give them 4 stars though. They really went to it. It was just a SmackDown. I know that both those girls have better shows in them. That's all I'm saying. Cool ending, how they went through the Jumbotron and they kind of looked like they were cut up, but it was all obviously all fake. But Charlotte's coming out saying she is hurt, so we'll see. Maybe she did get cut up a little bit from the Jumbotron. We'll find out. And the SmackDown World Cup, like I said, I love the World Cup idea. The SmackDown participants are Jeff Hardy and Randy Orton. It was a good match for Jeff Hardy to win that one. Obviously, I kind of had seen him. It was kind of weird how he was like, they were showing Samoa Joe as being injured too. So maybe Samoa Joe's getting another vacation and him and Kevin Owens are going to come back together or something. I think they make a great heel stable together. So we'll find out what happens with that. It was a weird move to make him look injured to be able to pull it off. Maybe he's getting some vacation coming up here, or maybe he does have a minor injury as well. The Miz segment was good with AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan. I think he helps both those, because both those guys are not good talkers. And to have the Miz kind of have him on the Miz show, Miz TV, and just the disgust he has for Daniel Bryan, I thought it was a really good segment. Miz is always, he just craps out gold now when it comes to segments and the mic. And his in-ring ability is actually really good too. So good work for the Miz, for the WWE to be able to put him in places where he is valued most. I think that's what they've been really doing really well with him for the last probably 5 years with the Miz, is finding perfect fits for him. And I think that's really where he is getting. But he's getting the mic and running with it. I think he's being put in the position to run, and he's sprinting. He's absolutely sprinting with it, and good for him. We finally find out what happens in the rest of the Milwaukee tape, and of course there was more to it. And Lana's like, she was obviously wasn't saying I want you, and she was just like saying, I want you to know how much Rusev loves you and how awesome you are for this team. And then of course the tape, Aiden English makes a move on Lana, and she instantly just denies him. And I kind of had a feeling that was the way it was going too. So it was a kind of an anticlimactic ending to their stupid feud. I hope it is over leading up to this, and it just confirmed that it wasn't that big of a deal. It was, hopefully Aiden English is done, and like I said, I guess they were trying with this bit, but people were interested in what was happening and people were talking about it, but it has a storyline, but it as obviously was what everyone thought it was, and hopefully we can move on. I don't like Lana switching between English and Russian. It's just super terrible. Stick with one or the other. Don't go with the Russian then if you're not, all of a sudden you're not going to be Russian now. You know what I mean? Super breaking kayfabe to go from having an accent to not going to having an accent. Whatever, this is 2018, so we can do that, and she wants to be on the TV show, so obviously she's not going to talk Russian on the TV show. But when she's on Raw on the mic, I think she should have to stick with the Russian accent or just speak English. She keeps flipping between Russian accent and then her American accent is terrible writing. I don't know how they're letting her do it. Stick to the program. I'm not old. It's just weird. It is. And Big Show shows up. I know he's done a lot of humanitarian work, being the spokesman for Special Olympics, which I think is awesome. So I think they're giving him a little bit of play just to make him still relevant. I like the Big Show. He should have retired a long time ago, at least probably last year. He should have probably retired, but he's still able to do it. He's showing a bunch of pictures on Instagram that he's shredded now, and good for him. I think just more for being healthy for how huge he is. Obviously, he was going to lose to Randy Orton, and especially with Randy Orton with the whole Evolution reunion going to happen on the next SmackDown. You know what I mean? So it was pretty obvious what was going to happen. Good to see the Big Show, but like I said, he probably should have retired about a year ago at least. They have announced the Rey Mysterio return for the 1000th episode of SmackDown too, and he's going to be fighting, which is super awesome, is he's going to be fighting Shinsuke Nakamura. Like, what a dream match right out the gate, Shinsuke Nakamura versus Rey Mysterio. I think that's just sounds like an awesome match right up my alley. Huge fan of Shinsuke, but Rey Mysterio is arguably my top 2 favorite wrestler of all time. I'd have to go through a list to even say, but Rey Mysterio was such an influential wrestler for me when I was a kid. Absolutely loved him. Everything he did, just for being that small guy who could put on great matches. And huge time. The shitty thing is all this Eddie Guerrero talk. I was a massive fan of Eddie Guerrero. When I used to wrestle as a kid, and I always would steal Eddie Guerrero moves. Such a great bad guy. The epitome of the best heel probably of all time. He was such a good heel that people loved him. He went way before his time. Super sad when Eddie Guerrero passed away. One of the legends of all time. Just such a good wrestler. And once again, another dude who wasn't that big of a guy, but was great on the mic, great in ring. He had a really cool set of moves. The frog splash, #1, that shoulder tackle. Love Eddie Guerrero, and let alone his voice, his voice and just everything about him. He just oozed charisma. Loved Eddie Guerrero, and he and Rey Mysterio always had great rivalry, and they were best of friends too. So it's really good to see Rey Mysterio show that respect to Shinsuke, and he's announcing his match. That next episode, this is coming this Tuesday, going to be massive. Finally, I was totally wrong on the time, and finally we're at the date of the SmackDown 1000 episode. It's going to be massive. Evolution showing up, Undertaker showing up, Edge is going to show up with Christian, obviously, Rey Mysterio, I think Michelle McCool is also showing up too. I'm not really that excited. I wasn't a huge fan of Michelle McCool. But who else shows up? I think we'll probably see something come down the pipe here with some kind of surprise guy. And maybe it'll be... Oh, The Rock is apparently too. I don't think The Rock will, but maybe we'll see somebody else come down. And we'll see how that turns out. Great Raw and SmackDown. And Nicole Matthews' saga ends, unfortunately. I watched the Mae Young Classic, was awesome. The local girl I talked about last show. She had a good showing in her. I wasn't surprised that she lost though in the second round. Unfortunately, she it's a rumor that's rolling around that she's banned from entering the States for 5 years. She probably worked illegally or something at a wrestling show in the States, not declaring, because if they take that stuff very, very seriously, working without the proper permits if you're not from America. And being from Canada, I can guarantee she probably... I don't know what happened. That's the thing. They aren't really releasing anything what happened, but the only thing they're saying is that she's been banned from entering the States for 5 years, which is huge. But so it makes sense that why she could have lost this match if the WWE found out about it. Because I would have thought she would have been one of the favorites to make it on. But also Caitlyn losing, I thought she was going to make it farther, but I guess hopefully we'll see Caitlyn in NXT. You know what I mean? I thought it was weird that she left so early from WWE. I thought she was one of the better wrestlers back in the day, and to leave the champ too was an odd move. So hopefully she gets over, maybe SmackDown, maybe I don't know, maybe Raw. I doubt that, yeah, but and put her on NXT and see how it goes. I managed to catch one of the mixed match challenges, and it was Golden Truth versus Phenomenal Flair, and it was a really, really funny match. They really had the crowd pumped. They were doing like a whole thing in the beginning where, because R-Truth, because his name is Ron Killings, and he's like an actual rapper too. Like he raps all the time and does shows too, and like he's opened up for Tech Nine, and he's opened up for Tupac like back in the day too, because he's older, and so he always has a song when he comes down. Him and Carmelo were really interacting with their song, with his it's called "What's Up" is a song. So he always says like "What's up," and the crowd's like "What's up." You know what I mean? So I thought they had a good interaction with him and Carmelo, kind of mixing the song together, and then they had like a dance off now, which I guess is the new thing for the mixed match challenge. And I thought it was just really funny because they were doing "What's Up," but Charlotte Flair's the daughter of Ric Flair, so she was doing "Woo," and the crowd was cheering "What's up," and then "Woo," and so like really crowd was really into it. It was a really huge response, and I think that's what the wrestling shows are all about, is just the fans and the crowd and the roar of it all. Really good both. I'm excited for. I'm not sure what's coming up next. I think it is the Crown Jewel is this weekend, or is it? No, I think it is this weekend. Yeah, Crown Jewel, and then the SmackDown 1000 we'll comment on next show. Huge weekend of Bellator. It was really a lot of fun. Having those matches back to back, it was super awesome. I haven't really done much other prepare for that. I have been playing a new video game, and I'm getting the jitters from Fallout 76. You still sticking with the same ones there, Kelly? You still Fortnite it up?
Yes.
Fortniting it up. Nice.
Waiting for Red Dead Redemption to come out.
Yeah, that's coming out soon. Yeah, super soon.
Watched some of the trailers. They look really good.
I'm definitely super hyped for Fallout. I can't wait. I think Red Dead looks good too.
Yeah.
But I have been playing, just to tide me over. I had like the Game Pass. It's pretty good actually. I definitely recommend it when it's on sale. But this game that I bought when it was on like super sale on Xbox. It's called Mordium. It's like another Warhammer game, but it's more like kind of like a board game almost. Kind of like Blood Bowl, which was like a fun game too, more like a board game type style where you have pieces and you move them spaces and different guys do different things. But this one was really cool because it's super RPG where your players continue. So even though it is like a board game, your pieces gain experience and you keep taking your pieces into different battlefields, to put it simply, kind of type of thing. So you get different weapons, different perks, different everything. So everyone gains experience, but also different negative things can happen to you, which I thought was a really cool little touch. Like, so like for instance, like if you die in battle, like, so you go to the different battles and they'll tell you what type of thing it is. It could be like, because it's about this place that this comet hit this city and it turned it all like mutiny and everything's all weird, but there's all these gem shards everywhere. So that's what your whole point of the game is, to get these gem shards. So different missions are different things. Like either you'll find another team of guys who are also getting gem shards, so you go and kill them, attack them, or your mission just whoever gets the most gem shards. But in the meantime, you can still fight each other too. But say like, so if you get into a battle and you have your team and your other team, and if a guy dies, he doesn't necessarily die. They call him out of action from the game. So after the match, you have to roll, and because the game is a whole about rolling dice, but you don't actually physically roll. The computer does it for you, obviously. You your guy, it could be determined from anywhere in between, from not hurt at all. Like if he goes out of action in a battle, after the battle's over, it could go from him not being hurt at all, he makes a full recovery, to just straight dead. But everything in between. So he could be like super shocked, and he's like got mental trauma, so he can't fight for 5 days, or he's got a maimed hand and his hand's messed up, so he doesn't block as well, or straight up a peg leg. He lost his legs, now he's got a peg leg. He can't climb up walls as good, and he doesn't move as far. Or you have a straight up hook on your hand, or different things like that. And just I thought that was really cool. So your guy carries on these traits. So your guy will now, if he could be an awesome guy, but now he's only got one leg. You know what I mean? So I thought that was a really cool, something different. You know what I mean? That's what I always look for in games. It is, it's very basic and straightforward. This is like a strategy game where you got guys that shoot, and you got guys that fight melee, and different attacks and different blocks, and it's really cool. Just turn based, obviously, but I thought it was a cool game. But they have like different missions you can do too, where it's rather than just kind of like a team mission. You got to go in and do like more like about like a storyline. So you got to go in. One mission I had to get these crates, carry them and put them into certain spots, and then explore this sewer and then get out, because like these rats, these Skaven is what the race is called. And so I have to plant these barrels in certain spots. But while I'm in the rat tunnel, this massive rat comes out and attacks me, and I have to fight him and then make it out. And meanwhile, the other team just keeps respawning. Once you beat the other team, they just respawn, because you're not playing another team. You're playing like a storyline mission. So I thought they've done enough to tweak the game. I only paid $16 for it. It was well worth $16. That's why I'm getting my money's out of it. And that's buying full price games I found is you can be very disappointed. And when you spend $90 on a game that sucks, boy, can you ever be disappointed. But I can guarantee you, when I spend that $90 on Fallout, I will not be disappointed. Super excited for it. Like I said, man, I'm getting the jitters, because we're just right down the pipe here. It's about less than a month away. Huge Fallout fan. I cannot wait for it to come out. Anything you want to talk about, Kelly? Anything you want to bring up this week, man?
I'm good.
Yeah, I think we minute and a half, hour. Yeah, minute and a half. Real short today. Hour and a half. Good episode for number 6. Let's hope we make up to 666 episodes. That's what I'm shooting for. It's just so we can say this is the 666th episode.
Sponsored by
Death.
Halloween.
Oh shit. Well, for my cohort producer extraordinaire Kelly, my name is Steven. This has been the And New Podcast, signing off.